Welcome, everybody. It's another Sovereign Sisters podcast. And we have a special one tonight. Our own Sovereign Sister, Lisa Richards, is going to take us through geopathic stress. Now, if you've never heard of this before, this is one to listen to. It's really quite amazing how all of this affects our bodies and our frequencies. It's just so interesting. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa and let her get started.
Yeah, it's really an interesting subject. I started learning about it several different years ago, and yeah, I came across a really good book and a lot of good work. And even, just the other day when we figured out what we were going to speak about today, I had an email that very same day about somebody speaking about geopathic stress. It's just amazing how things fall into place like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so another word, or I guess another name for geopathic stress would be earth radiation. Now, what is geopathic stress? It actually means disease of the earth. So the Greek word geo, meaning earth, and pathic, which means disease. So, geopathic stress is caused by underground streams, fault lines, ore deposits, caves, oil veins, underground railroads, underground motorways or tunnels, building foundations, quarries, mainly any type of disturbance in the earth that's underneath us. Geopathic stress alters the frequency of the natural healing energy, which is a sole factor in many serious illnesses. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
Yeah. So, actually, this is pretty cool. Long ago, before homes were built, the locals would dig up an ant hill and they would place that on the location where they wanted to build the home. Now, ants like geopathic stress. So, if the ants stayed, the home would be built elsewhere because that meant there was geopathic stress in the area. If the ants left, then it meant it was a safe area to build the home and they would construct the home. Now, they also did this with farm animals as well. They would build a temporary pasture where they were going to build the home and they would stick some farm animals in there. Usually they used sheep. And after a couple months, they would butcher the sheep and test its organs. And usually there would be holes through the liver and just different things wrong with the internal organs of the animal if they were raised over top of geopathic stress. So that meant that they would have to be build the home in a different location. How important is this? Why did we forget this? This is crazy. I mean, if it's something this simple as the location of your home can make you ill, why are we not taught this?
That's right.
I mean, it's just crazy to me. So, if a home is built over geopathic stress, disruptive negative frequencies are actually sent into the building. The body uses its energy now, your body, to fight off these disruptive frequencies instead of, especially like if you're sleeping, that's the rest and regenerative portion
Hmm.
stage of your body. And if you're fighting off these disruptive frequencies, then you're not getting the rest. You're not, you know, getting what you need and replenishing your body. The body has no energy left to fight off your diseases. That's literally what it's doing.
Right.
So let me go over here. I want to show you some symptoms of geopathic stress. So some symptoms that can occur are headaches, dizziness, eye and throat irritations, coughs, nausea, gastro gastrointestinal issues, difficulties breathing, dry itchy skin, fatigue, difficulty focusing, heart palpitations, smell sensitivity, body aches, tightness in the chest, psychological issues, depression, ADHD, problems sleeping, and nightmares.
So these are like the main type of problems that a lot of people have.
Yeah,
And does our audience really realize that geopathic stress could be the cause of a
exactly.
lot of these symptoms, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I'll tell you a story about my uncle who lived in my home at one point. Um, so some more symptoms. of geopathic stress is sleepwalking, resistance to medical treatments, poor health, cramps, nervousness, tingling in the limbs, feeling cold, grinding your teeth, or stiffness in your neck and shoulders. So there's quite a few different symptoms, and like Tammy said, you could get them easily confused with any other type of so-called medical
Hmm.
condition. But is the medical industry really just using those other conditions? They know it's geopathic stress. That could be a big thing that's going on, and they're just using it as a diagnostic. As a let's rope them in.
Right.
So to me, it sounds like all these things, based on what you said, geopathic stress comes from, sounds like just we've lost touch with nature.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly it. So this stuff is really powerful. A lot of people who suffer with mental conditions, it can be caused by geopathic stress as well. My uncle, who committed suicide, he lived in my home. Okay. He built this house 30 some years ago, and he committed suicide on the front porch one day. And right after I inherited the home, we ended up purchasing it. I started delving into geopathic stress and how it can really affect the mental stability, especially of people. So I took my dowsing rods out and I walked across the front of the house because we have a spring behind our property. That's where we get our water. So I knew there was underground water here, and we have oak trees everywhere. Okay, which is another sign. And so I took my dowsing rods and I went across the front of the home, and I found where 3 springs went right underneath the house. One was in the kitchen where I see all the ants,
Hmm.
another sign of geopathic stress, right where I always see all the ants, right on the very edge of the house. Another was right directly through the living room, and another was in one of the bedrooms at the far end of the house. So I figured my uncle, he had such a pain in his head, he couldn't deal with it anymore, he said. So that's why he shot himself. So I figured he slept in that back bedroom. And one day I asked my aunt, his ex wife, where he actually slept. And I was expecting her to say he slept in that bedroom. He slept in the living room on a futon, right directly. His head was right directly where it went right through the living
Mm,
room. I
interesting.
mean, that confirmed it even more for me, you know? But let's touch on some more aspects of geopathic stress because it can be confusing with all the different symptoms. Now, these are some ways that you can tell if you're being affected by it. Did your health issues begin after moving into a new home? Did you or do you feel better when you're away from home? Those are the 2 biggest things. When you're home, you feel like crap. When you're away, you feel better. And sometimes it only takes a couple hours for you to recuperate from that negative geopathic stress zone. And this doesn't have to be just in your home. It can be in your work area too, somewhere where you are located a lot during the day. Okay. Do you feel uneasy in your home? Were the previous owners of the home unwell? So that's a big one. If somebody keeps continually getting cancer over and over, did they sleep in the same bedroom? Did they sleep in the same, was the bed placed in the same location? That's a big one. Do you feel worse during the wet weather? Because then the underground water is actually flowing faster. So it's pulling more energy that way. It's causing more of a disturbance when it's flowing faster. Does your home feel cold or damp? Do you find cracks in the floors and the walls and the ceilings and the foundation? Are there a lot of oak trees on your property around your home? Do you have like a hedge line of bushes that's growing oddly? Maybe you have the entire hedge and then there's a couple bushes that just are dipped in. That's usually a sign of geopathic stress. Do you have ants in your home? Issues sleeping, nightmares? Those are some of the big ones. Now, children are very sensitive to geopathic stress. A lot of these times when people are saying they have a colicky baby, I really think it's because they are sleeping on top of the geopathic stress zones. If you have a baby that cries a lot, has issues sleeping, If you find your baby pressed up against the bars of the crib or really pressed against the bassinet in a different position than when you left them, you see babies that are all over the place. It's because they're trying to relocate to a healing area instead of in that toxic geopathic stress area. If you have a child that won't sleep in their bed, children that claim there are monsters under their bed. They use
Mm-hmm.
any excuse to get out of their bed and get in bed with mom and dad. Now,
Hmm.
90%, they're finding 90% of the babies who died of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, actually slept in a geopathic stress zone.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, other symptoms for the children: hyperactivity, eczema, and allergies are really big. So, there's actually a book called Earth Radiation. If you can see this.
Yep.
Hmm. It's by Kathy Bachler. Okay. And she did some studies. So she surveyed 3,000 school children, and she found that 95% who suffered from learning disorders were hyperactive, fell asleep in school, or were always misbehaving. They either slept over top of a geopathic stress zone or their school desk was sitting upon it. That's how powerful this is. Like, and how simple, you guys will be amazed by the simple solutions. Like, we could heal all this up within a day, for everybody. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask. So you're going to get to that. I mean, aside from literally picking up your house and moving it,
Yeah.
you had talked before about simply moving like a couple feet away from
Yep.
that particular location. Yeah.
Yep.
See,
And there's other remedies too.
the thing that concerns me is if this has been proven or is known to be true, that such as kids in school,
Yep.
there's no way the school system's going to do anything about this. What solutions are there? I mean, you're probably coming to that later, but that's one of the things I want to put out there. Parents are going to have to act on behalf of their children.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of toxicity in school. Look at the foods that they're feeding the children now. I mean,
I was
they're
going to say in many ways,
filling
a
it
lot
with
of toxicity.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not only the brainwashing that occurs,
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
it's a safer bet just to homeschool your children anyway. Then you know what's
Exactly.
going on. But a
Oh,
lot
they're
of
coming
people
after that
do
too.
that.
Did you know that? They're coming
No.
after the homeschoolers. Yep. Yep. They want every homeschooled kid to be registered with their
Oh, of
state.
course. Of course.
Sorry. Keep going.
If I was pregnant now, I'd probably run into the woods and hide and just have my baby by myself and not, we'd be raised in a cave somewhere,
Yep.
I just think that's probably the safest.
Off grid.
Yep,
Totally
exactly.
agree.
So the first years of life are very important for a child, of course. And when children are forced to sleep over top of this geopathic stress at that young age, they can later become very sick and withdrawn and bitter. That's how much it affects, their mental stability as well. So, what I do recommend and what Kathleen Bachler actually recommends in her book is if you hear a baby crying constantly and it can't be consoled by its parents and they can't figure out what's going on, just recommend that a new location for the crib. Place the crib or the bassinet in a new location and see if that helps with the baby. Now, geopathic stress affects the ability to conceive as well. 90% of those who cannot conceive sleep on top of geopathic stress. Geopathic stress is the cause of infertility in over 50% of the cases. And how many people struggle? It's just so upsetting to them that they can't have a baby. And then they have to spend all this money to try to get pregnant when it could be the simple solution of just moving out of that area. Not technically your home, but maybe just moving your bed a few feet, like Tammy mentioned earlier.
Well, I'm gonna interject there real quick. Well, recently, I just saw somebody who we know went through, I guess, I don't know, they went through the medical procedure to try to get pregnant because she just could not get pregnant, and now has a not even 2-year old baby who has cancer that they're doing chemo for. and liver transplant.
Yeah.
And same thing, somebody else that we know went through many, many different procedures to try to get pregnant, and after three different times of trying, had all kinds of problems when that child was born. And I said to my husband the other day, I'm like, do people not understand this? They're both in the medical system as well.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And they
That's the
both,
first problem.
that is the first problem.
Yeah.
But I mean, right off the bat, this kid's 2 years old and is going through chemo.
It's just
It's
horrible.
it's crazy.
I consider that child abuse. I really do.
Yeah.
It's awful. But I'm wondering if it's sort of tied to what you're talking about. If it could it be tied to that as well.
Yeah,
Well, I
absolutely.
think in addition to that, parents have to be healthy before they conceive. And so if they don't resolve whatever it is, including this geopathic stress,
Hmm.
if they're still being affected by it, then the child they conceive has whatever it is they're passing on to them already in their genes. And so it makes sense that before you get pregnant, you make sure you're the healthiest you can be because you're going to pass on whatever it is that's wrong with you to that child.
Yeah.
Well, and I look at it like if you are not meant to have a child, then you're just not meant to have a child. Doing all these medical procedures to force your body to produce a child is, in my opinion, not the best thing, because you don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen. You know, yeah,
Yep. I totally agree. Yep. So, I mean, it's just crazy to me how powerful this stuff is, and we are
hmm,
not taught it. There's so much
right.
out there that we're
Hmm.
not taught,
Yeah,
intentionally.
nobody knows this information.
Yep. But it used to be widespread. I mean,
Mhm.
people used it to determine if they were going to build their home at one point,
Yeah,
you know?
It's because that knowledge was passed on in the families through oral histories, through parents teaching children. That's not done anymore.
right.
These days, parents go off to work and allow the school system to raise their
Yeah.
kids. It's really quite odd to me. I know raising my children, I was a stay-at-home mom for as long as I possibly could until I got divorced, and then it was a matter of surviving, having some money. But that's the way you pass along the learning to your children. If you don't give that information to your child, they're going to find out other things that may not be true, and that's what they're going to grow up with. And so we have families out of sync with nature, out of sync with the way human beings are supposed to live. That connection is so tight with nature because that's all about our frequency. It's just amazing to me how far we've come and really not progressed.
Yeah. I really feel frequency healing is the medicine of the future.
Hmm.
We're
Agreed.
just dumbed down to it all. It's
Yeah.
now emerging and we're starting to learn about it. And we're all going to realize just how barbaric we've actually been ourselves
Yeah.
over the past several years.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I truly I call this era the dark ages of medicine because
Yeah.
it's not healing. It's
Right.
just it's we're living as if it were a medieval time. We consider, the things that were done in the dark ages like using leeches just so barbaric. Well, so is chemo, and that is
Yeah.
extremely barbaric. You're
Yep.
poisoning your body.
Mhm.
So I truly get it. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
let you go back to your
Well, the
your
only three, I say that all the time. The only three options: cut, burn, and poison. Which one do you want to do?
cut,
They
burn, poison, and drug. That's the other
Yeah,
one.
but they don't they wanna scare you to make you fear
Mhm.
Yeah.
that, you're gonna die any day now, even though it took 10 years for that tumor to get as big as it is already. They don't want you to have any time to research and to look to natural healing modalities like the Gerson therapy or something that was pushed out of the country by the American Medical Association. And people now with, who have been cut, burned, and poisoned almost to death are sent home to die from our American medical industry,
Mhm.
and these people will go to the Gerson Clinic in Mexico and get healed.
Yeah.
Stage 4 cancer, almost on their deathbed.
Yep.
And they'll get healed with natural things like juicing and coffee enemas.
Yep.
Simple solutions. I would choose those options before I would choose the horrors. I'm sure we've all seen somebody go through chemo or radiation or surgery from it. I mean, it's debilitating.
Mhm.
It's crazy. Okay. So let me go. I have this list I want to show you. These are actually list of geopathic stress seekers. So these are trees and insects and animals who like geopathic stress. So cherry trees, plum trees, nectarines, peach trees, elderberry bushes, oak trees, excuse me, fir trees, asparagus. Well, I know my asparagus bed's in a good place. I see ants in there. Ants, bees, insects, cats, bacteria, and parasites. So, if you have an overgrowth of bacteria, if you have an overgrowth of parasites, and you're trying to fight them off and you can't get rid of them, you're probably in a geopathic stress zone. Bees. Now, geopathic stress, this is so powerful. Most bees like to make their hives in oak trees. Oak trees like geopathic stress as well. Um, if your home is on that same line that the geopathic stress is for the oak tree and the bees, and you do something to deflect it, which we'll go over in a little bit, you can pound, for instance, a copper rod in the ground, which is some dowsers do. It's called earth acupuncture, and it deflects that away from your home. But you're also deflecting it away from the bees and away from the oak tree. And the instant you do that, the bees will fly away and relocate. That's how powerful this is. Now, cats, a lot of people will say, oh, my cat likes to cuddle with me or sleep with me. Probably because you're on a geopathic stress zone. You're sleeping over a top of an area where you need that little transformer cat to transform those negative energies for you because your body's trying to do it and not being able to support yourself to fight the diseases and things that could appear as well. So, also, electrical activity is very strong around these areas. So, you want to avoid, especially things like oak trees and fir trees during an electrical storm, especially an oak tree. Most of the time, when a tree gets struck by lightning, it's an oak tree because oak trees like to grow over top of geopathic stress where two underground water veins cross of alternating sizes. And that's usually what causes the strike underground water this way, underground water this way, and then the oak tree would be growing over top of it there. Now, these are the geopathic stress avoiders. They hate geopathic stress. Similar to us. Humans should be on this list too, and I did not put them on there. But so apple trees, pear trees, nut trees, lilacs, sunflowers, beech trees, linden trees, begonias, azaleas, cacti, dogs. So this is, for instance, if you have a dog that won't go into his kennel or breaks out of his kennel all the time, it could be because you have his kennel over top of geopathic stress. Okay. If he would rather sleep on the floor than sleep in his dog bed, it could be geopathic stress. Horses and cows, for farm animals like pigs, horses, cows, there are higher rates of miscarriage. They won't produce milk when they're sleeping over top of these geopathic stress zones. There was a story of a farmer who, when you open the door and let the cows in for the evening, they all walk right into their assigned stall. And this one cow would not walk into his stall. He just kept avoiding it. And the farmer would force that cow into the stall. If you're a farmer and you're forcing an animal into a stall, it's probably because there's an energy in there that they are getting sick from. So that geopathic, and that's what was happening with this farmer. The cow ended up dying, and it was from the geopathic stress. So things like pigs, chickens, birds. Okay. So if you have bird feeders, you want to hang, or bird houses, hang those in stress avoider trees. Okay. So apple trees, pear trees, lilac trees, nut trees, beech trees, linden trees. Those are the types of trees. Azalea bushes, begonias. Well, you probably can't in a begonia, but now these are trees on this list that would be protection from electrical storms. So if there is an electric storm and you run underneath your apple tree or something, you should be safe. But I'm sure we've all seen the big tree burls on the side of a tree, the big chunk. It's actually tree cancer. So that's also a sign that a tree is growing on top of electric or on top of geopathic stress or in an area that it doesn't like. The cancer of the tree, the burl, will form. The tree will grow twisted, intertwined with other trees. Those are signs as well. So just keep that in mind. We were talking about this earlier, and not all trees in nature, most of them were not growing where they should technically be or thriving, so a bird could have eaten the seed and, planted it when it was going to the bathroom or something. So that could be why the tree is growing that way. Let me see here. Let me get back. Okay, so I just want to touch on that book again real quick by Kathleen Bachler, Earth Radiation, The Startling Discoveries of a Dowser. So what she did, she would take her dowsing rods into people's homes. And it was really cool because 90+% of the time, she was accurate. She didn't know anything about these people. She didn't know anything about their home. All she would do is take the dowsing rods into their home, and she would douse their entire home, and then she would find where the geopathic zones were. And for instance, if she was in the bedroom, and she'd say the underground water is going at the head of this bed. So whoever is sleeping in this bed has something wrong with their head. And almost 90% of the time, if not more, she was accurate. And it depended on how long these people were in that location, how bad their sickness was. If they just started sleeping there, maybe they're suffering from migraines. A couple of years down the road, the longer they're on it, they could be, have mental disturbances, mental issues. It could develop later on into brain tumor or cancer or something like that. That's how powerful this really is. But this is a really good book to check out because she has so many different experiments and examples in here. And I'll probably, if we have time in a little bit, I'll read some of those.
So how does one find these geopathic stress areas?
Yeah. So what we can do about the geopathic stress is we need to detect, of course, where the geopathic zones are. Second, you need to move to a geopathic stress-free zone, and that doesn't necessarily mean you need to move your home. It could be, for instance, moving your bed just a couple feet out of the way. And your recovery from these will begin almost immediately.
Hmm.
You should see
It's
that,
amazing.
maybe that's why sometimes, if you're sleeping in your bed and you're tossing and turning all night and can't get comfortable, and then you go sleep on the couch, maybe your bed's in a geopathic stress zone,
So do you want to cover a little bit about dowsing rods?
Yeah, so what we can do, some different things that we can do, you can have a dowser cure your geopathic stress. So, for instance, there's a lot of different dowsers out there. They'll bring their dowsing rods to your home. Tammy has some dowsing rods here she's playing around with. These
I
are L
was. They were
rods.
hitting me in the face.
And they're a really simple tool to use. You just have to be open-minded, and you have to um, be focused on your intention. So think in your mind as you're using them, geopathic stress, water, you know what all the geopathic stress is. That's all you're looking for. And then when you're walking with them, and when you come to an area with geopathic stress, they'll cross. Typically, that's what happens. They'll cross. And then you can say, reopen the dowsing rods and ask in your mind, or you can say it out loud, show me which way the geopathic stress goes. So if your house is on this side and they swing this way, that means it's headed right to your house.
Hmm.
So that would be a geopathic stress area that you would want to cure. Make sure that you're not sleeping over top of that area or anything like that.
If someone has a pendulum, can a pendulum work just as well?
Yep.
Good. Okay.
Yep, you can use a pendulum as well, but for something so important, I would recommend hiring somebody that's been dowsing for a while. because it's such an easy remedy to just move into a different
Mhm.
location. Um, what other ways? Other ways. Oh, so placing a cork board underneath your bed. That's another way that we can remedy the situation. So if you're sleeping over top of it, you want to make sure you at least clean up that area first, because we sleep, 7, 8, 9 hours a night. So and that's the time that our body's supposed to be regenerating itself. So if you only fix one area of your home, make sure it's the bed first. Okay. And just placing cork board underneath your bed. If you can't hire a dowser, just get some cork board, and just it's better safe than sorry. You don't know if there's geopathic stress under there or not. Just go get some cork board. You can also use other types of energy transformation tools like orgone pyramids, um, just regular pyramid shapes, pyramid crystals, quartz, shungite. They all work great, like amethyst, zeolite, black tourmaline. Um, and then feng shui. Feng shui is the placement of things in your home to bring in more positive energy. So that will help with the geopathic stress as well. And then also cleaning up your environment of any EMFs in your home. That will help as well, because the EMFs just pretty much exacerbate the effects of the geopathic stress as well. You're being bombarded from every avenue, and your body doesn't have a chance to heal at all.
It's funny that you brought up feng shui because for a long time I really didn't understand what the purpose of it. And then looking into geopathic stress, it kind of clicked. Oh, that's what feng shui is all about. We're really trying to have that energy flow in the right spaces
Mhm.
by living in an area that's not impacted by the geopathic stress.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to get into feng shui a few years ago, and I just haven't really had time to delve into it. But it was a really cool subject.
Yeah, we have a couple books on it, and was always interested in it, but I don't think we've ever done it either. All I remember is don't ever put steps in front of a door.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, something to the effect like you don't want to come walk through a door and have steps immediately in front of it, because something, it disrupts the feng shui. I don't know.
It's like the
Why?
flow of energy, I
Yeah.
think, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's really what it is. And I think you've been talking about it, Lisa, when you talk about if you get headaches or something, or you wake up with a migraine or something with the bed placement, it's that whole idea of how the energy in the room is being affected by being on that geopathic stress. And my understanding, again, I'm not by any means a feng shui expert. I don't know it really anything other than what I've seen. It's really kind of clearing out the bad energy and moving it towards the good energy is what my rather rudimentary understanding of it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I know a couple things that I remember from studying some feng shui was not to put anything underneath your bed. So it needs to be an open area. And how many of us have stuff under our bed, you know? And then when you come in the front door, you should not walk into anything of the fire element, like into the kitchen where the oven is. And that's
Mhm.
right where my oven is, right when you walk in the front door. So, but you can do things to deflect that energy, like put a mirror there, or different things, or a plant or a water element, because water cures the fire. So it sounds kind of crazy, but I think we're all going to find that these crazy things are way more true than we
Mhm.
ever believe them to be, you
Right.
know?
Right. Because who talks about this? Only us.
Yeah, most
Yeah.
people just buy a home because they like the area, they like the house, the rooms are the right way. They don't think about the whole thing, that it's connected to the land, it's
Yep.
Yep.
connected to the earth itself. And for that reason, you need to be in harmony. That's really what it boils down to. I think living in harmony with nature in all aspects, inside your house and externally outside in your yard.
Yeah. So that's another big reason for geopathic stress to be in the area. It could be a disturbance in the land from a massacre from a long time ago.
Mm.
You know, that energy could still be there.
Or underground dumbs. or tunnels,
Exactly,
right? See?
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So here's some random facts about geopathic stress I thought was pretty interesting too. We talked about this: when lightning strikes, it only strikes where two water currents are crossing. Spontaneous combustion, it always occurs over top of two underground water streams too. So farmers, if they have a barn that they're storing their hay in, all
Mhm.
they have to do to protect themselves from combustion and losing their whole farm or barn, take the dowsing rods in there and see, make sure the barn is placed on the right spot, you know. Bees will actually produce more honey when they're over top of the geopathic stress. You know, bees can be forced into different locations with, honey hives and stuff, but um, I'm sure a lot of beekeepers don't know this. How many times have they invested in bees and put them in the same location for them to fly away not too long afterwards, and relocate. So that can get quite expensive if you have to keep doing that. So if you just get your dowsing rods out or have a dowser come and find where the geopathic stress is, then place the bees over that area.
Our bees are doing really good, but that's one of the things I'm going to do is take my dowsing rods over to the hives and see
Yes.
if that's a good magnetic stress area. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So another thing, car accidents will happen in a lot of areas where there's high geopathic stress. So actually in India, they have started placing pyramids along the sides of these areas with high accidents, where high accidents happen, and it's really remedied the situation. I mean, it's
Wow,
crazy. Yeah. So less accidents are occurring.
nice.
Yeah. But do you guys have any questions? I mean, that's basically what geopathic stress is, and there's a lot more that we could delve into and go into. And I might just read some things from some reports from Kathy's book here. But did you
Well,
guys
one
have
of the
questions?
questions was how do you find these areas? And I think what you were talking about is using dowsing rods. Is there any way you can give kind of a mini idea of how to use a dowsing rod and what they mean when you're doing it?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's basically simple. Like I had said there, you just focus. You have to keep your mind focused if you want to do it yourself. Okay. You want to keep thinking geopathic stress. That's what you're looking for. And you want to hold the dowsing rods so they're straight.
Hey, Tammy, can you show what your dowsing rods look like?
Yeah, I need to back up a little bit.
And then, so what I always do is like Tammy has, she has her thumbs on the end of the swivels. So it's holding the dowsing rods in place. So as you begin to walk forward, you want to let go of your thumbs and let the dowsing rods swing. Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. They want to come back and hit me.
But as you're walking, they'll swing back and forth a little bit. But as soon as you get over top of the geopathic stress, it will cross. And that's where you're going to stop. And then you ask,
Oh,
straighten them back up again. And
see?
you ask again, show me which way the geopathic stress goes. And they'll turn one way or the other to show you which way it's
Oh,
going.
see, it's responding to you because look, it was crossing,
Yep.
and then when you ask, so which way is the geopathic stress? Oh, look at that turn! Look at that! Whoa, whoa, that is crazy. Wait,
Yep.
it's pointing towards me. So they're both kind of pointing back to behind me. Oh, now they're all over the place. Well, I haven't actually, I haven't used these yet. These are new. So I haven't actually trained them yet to me, like we do with pendulums where we train
Yep.
them yes or no questions. So that's one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to train them to myself. And then I'm going to be going all over the place, checking out, all it's going to be
Yep.
fun.
So some people are scared to use dowsing tools. They think it's connecting with evil spirits or this or that. It's really a tool to teach us to trust our intuition, because we
Mhm.
all have that answer already inside of us, but we're not listening to it. We're
Right.
trained to really disregard our intuition. That very first answer that pops into your head is always the truth.
Right.
It always is the truth. Most of us don't even hear it anymore because our ego jumps in so fast and makes us change our mind. And how many times, especially us women, we're always beating ourselves over the head and like, I knew it. I knew that. I knew that was the right answer,
Yep.
We always, as we say, we second guess
Yep.
ourselves
Yep.
instead of trusting our intuition,
Yep.
trusting what your gut is telling you. We second guess yourself. And a lot of times it's because other people have tried to tell you that your intuition is wrong. And so you start to doubt it yourself.
Right.
And for
Yep.
me, it's like I always say to my husband, if I think this is true, if I get a gut response, I'm no longer second guessing it
That's right.
Yep.
because 99.999% of the time it is spot on.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. My
Yeah. And
ex.
once,
Oh, go
oh,
ahead.
no, sorry, I was going to say, once you understand that, once you have that first experience where your gut is telling you something and you move with it, and you trust it, then I've gotten to the point now where it's like, if my gut's telling me something, I am on it right off the bat. I'm not going to second guess. I'm just going to do it. And you're right. Almost every time it was the right choice.
Yeah. So what you're doing is connecting to your higher self.
Mhm.
We all have that aspect that remains in spirit that
Yep.
is connected to us and helping guide us throughout life. And you're just asking yourself, your higher self, for guidance. And um, it works really good. And then once you start trusting it, it's like that connection gets deeper and your
Mhm.
answers come faster. I mean,
Yes.
before you even get the question out of your mind, the dowsing rods are moving one way or another in
Right.
response to that answer.
Right.
It's kind of crazy. But when I first started dowsing, I had a necklace. It was a cross necklace, and I would just keep it in the bathroom. When I was in the bathroom, I would just play around with it. And then I'd freak myself out because I'd be asking questions and I'd be like, oh, what? How did it know that? But then I got more into it and studied it more and more in tune with it. And that's one thing you need to do is tune in with it.
Mhm.
For instance, your new dowsing rods, they have the energy of whoever built them, whoever picked them up in the
Mhm.
store before you got them.
Right.
So you want them to be more in tune with your energy to respond to you. You'll want to I would put them in a bowl with salt or a bag with salt and kind of just leave them overnight, or lay them on the ground outside. Let them get that earth energy, just something to cleanse them. And then you want to be as close to them and work with them as much as possible.
Mhm.
So pick them up every day. Put them under your pillow, if it's not too uncomfortable or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
And that's the same with the pendulum,
Mhm.
put it in your pocket, carry it around with you. It's going to tune in to your energy better. And then also, which is hard to do because once you start working with a pendulum or dowsing, you're so excited to show everybody else in your family or your friends. And then they're like, let me try too. And then you're like,
Right.
no, you can't touch my
Right.
pendulum because your energy will be on
That's
it.
right.
So you might have to buy another one just to give them to play with.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But
I
yeah.
think this all comes back to the same thing over and over again. It's all about frequency, energy, and vibration. And we're putting that into the things we touch, to the land we live on. And it's an exchange. We have our frequency and our energy and our vibration that we exchange with each other and we exchange with nature. It's just people are so hesitant to accept that. It's like they're very rigid in, this human hierarchy of I know better rather than learning and living in concert with nature and in concert with those frequencies that make us feel better. And people just confuse it. They think we're just human beings, but we really are spiritual beings living a human
Mhm.
existence. And to use that spiritual energy, I think uplifts us, removes us from a lot of the stresses, not just the geopathic stress, but a lot of the stresses in our life if we connect to that higher self. I mean, you've said it all along. Those answers are coming from our higher self. It's when we are open and accepting of it that it becomes really part of who we are.
Yes.
Well, and I think being energetic beings, maybe why our bodies respond to like this geopathic stress a little bit more so, right? Because that's all energy as well, right?
Yeah. Well, another thing too, I look at crop circles a little different than other people. I feel that crop circles are Mother Earth calling to us to transform us and help heal her.
Hmm.
It's a symbol that she's actually emitting herself through a small vibration or frequency, which we know she does through earthquakes and stuff. Why wouldn't she be able to create it herself to kind of wake us up to what our true power is and help heal her because we're all one.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that just makes sense to me more than an alien created it or whatever. I mean, which it still could be possible. Who knows with this crazy world? But that's just my outlook on them. But so, under the geopathic stress, going back to that real quick, businesses will actually do better if they have a dowser come in and make sure there's no geopathic stress in their business, or if they cure, if there is, to have them cure that. That's what it's called. Earth acupuncturist or whatever could put a metal rod there and cure it for them. So just keep that in mind too. If you have a business, and you've been busting your butt and you don't know why you're struggling, you don't know why your business isn't succeeding. Maybe it's because it's over geopathic stress. Do you have
That's
ants in your
interesting.
house? Do you have ants in your business? You have geopathic stress. Did you have cracks in your foundation? Do you have cracks in your sidewalk? Do you have cracks in your where you park your vehicle? You have geopathic stress. And
Hmm.
those are some simple signs that you can look for.
Isn't it true that use of more natural materials help mitigate geopathic stress? Rather than using, concrete, like using a natural wood or clay would mitigate some of that.
I don't think so. I
No.
think the cement is just such a hard material that it's going to be easily manipulated by the geopathic stress there. Um, it could be. I'm not really sure on that, but I really feel that, intuitively that it's just the geopathic stress can get to the cement a little bit better than like the natural things. So, but yeah, but I mean, it's still, the living things that are over top of it, they're going to be manipulated by it as well. So, like the hedges, the trees, things like that. So,
Well, that just reminded me. We're working on we're going to be building a greenhouse, and if I go over that area that we're going to be building it on with the dowsing rods, see, since it's a greenhouse, I don't know how that applies. If we have different types of
exactly.
plants in there,
So,
like tomatoes, and you know what I mean. Like, do we want geopathic stress or do we not?
well,
How
you
do
would
we know?
want to have two separate greenhouses, one for geopathic stress
Now
and
you're
one
asking a
for
lot.
not. Yep.
Oh, such a simple solution there, Tammy.
Yeah, right, right. I'm already concerned about how we're going to build this greenhouse. So would it behoove us then to go out and look at what plants that we're going to grow in this greenhouse want
Yeah.
to avoid the stress and find other
Yep.
plants that would rather have. Okay, so the first action is go out and do the dowsing rods and see where it's at. There
Yeah.
is a water line. It no longer is in use, but it looks like it runs right underneath the concrete pad where we're building it. So,
Well, you could also place it in an area that's half and half. You could find where a geopathic zone is crossing and then, put keep half of it on the clean area and half on the geopathic stress
hmm,
area. So that's
okay.
another option as well. But I really think when I was looking into the plants that are affected by it, that most of them like to be in a geopathic stress free area more
Right.
than not.
Okay.
So, like the garden type vegetables and stuff.
Well, then keep your fingers crossed for us because that we're in a stress free zone because it's about the only place that we can put the greenhouse.
Yeah. These things are so cool though to me, and it's of course it costs money first of all to get a greenhouse, but how cool would it be to do the testing?
Mhm.
Have one in a geopathic stress zone and have one not, and grow the
Right.
same exact things in both greenhouses to see how it's
Right.
affecting them. you know?
or plant the things that like the stress in one, and things that don't like the stress in the other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the same way with the beehives. I'm the head of the research for the Pyramid Science Foundation, but I hate causing stress on the control subjects. If I know something's good,
Right.
like the pyramid energy for the plants, I want them all to have that and
Right.
experience that.
Right. Right.
And like for the bees. So it would be awesome to really experiment with the bees. And beekeeping is a very costly hobby to get into. So if you could find somebody in your area that has several hives, do some dowsing for them and see how it changes the productivity of the hive. How much honey are they going to produce compared to last year? Because usually these beekeepers keep pretty thorough notes, thorough journals, and they know exactly how much honey the hive has produced and this and
Hmm.
that. So
Yeah.
that would be something to get rolling too, to see how this has really affected us.
Right. And that's what I was saying earlier, that our bees seem to be producing a lot of honey, but I'm wondering if they could be better suited, maybe in a different place too, you know.
Yeah.
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 I'll be
You know what I
testing that.
find exciting is that as we learn more and more about these things that apparently we just lost over time and that we're recovering this knowledge, what an exciting world to go to. This is what excites me about learning these new things about, not just geopathic stress, but the whole connectivity of life, nature, uh, living creatures of all kinds, humans with them. Just think what a fantastic world this would be if we start going back to that more natural approach of everything, learning to live with nature, in concert with nature, and just not fighting it like we do now. I mean, I literally get mad when when we take a walk and I see those little stickers in the yard that said the yard's just been sprayed. I look over and I said, "Oh, you just poisoned your yard,"
Hmm.
because it frustrates me because we're not living with nature the way we should be. We're trying to force nature into this little box of what we think is perfect. And it's just, to me, it's so odd and completely removed, I think, from the spiritual nature of our life. Sorry to ramble. It's just those are the things that get me excited. If we go back to a way that we're supposed to live, just how glorious it could be.
Right. Well, and you look at, one of our friends is going to be building a dandelion bed, and we thought it was really, really cool that he's doing that. Most people think that dandelion is this horrible weed, so they got to spray that chemical on there to get rid of that dandelion. That dandelion has amazing medicinal benefits.
Yeah.
We should be picking up these dandelions and eating them and making tea out of them, and dandelion wine, and all these other things. So we thought that was really cool that he told us that he's going to be building a dandelion bed. So
It's
yeah,
awesome.
we'll see how that goes. Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
always yell at Sean to not mow the lawn because he's a lawn mowing fanatic. And I'm like, don't mow it. That's the first food for the bees. But like you said, Angela, I think we're finding our way.
Hmm.
I think it is an exciting time to be alive. And there's so many people that haven't found their purpose yet. I think the three of us have kind of fell into our purposes kind of by accident.
Hmm.
And I feel that we're really going to
Or
be
by
able to
divine
share.
guidance.
Yeah, but I feel we're really going to be able to share a lot with people and help them. There's so many people that are struggling with mental issues now and depressed and sad. It could be simple things like this, like the geopathic stress.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
why
I
not
mean,
try it? Why not?
how
I don't
great
care
would
if
it be?
it's crazy.
How
Yeah,
great would it be if moms go out and do use dowsing and figure out that the baby's crib is in the wrong spot
Yes.
and they move it to another spot and the baby sleeps so much better without
Yeah.
her crying? I mean, how
Absolutely.
simple of a solution could that be? That's, to me, that'd be the first thing I would do when I found out about it.
Right.
yeah, exactly. And so I have an EMF meter, and we'll go over this in another talk sometime, but I took my EMF meter to my daughter's house. I told her I was going to come visit. This was a couple weeks ago. And I said, I'm bringing my meter. We're going to test your house out. She just had a baby. She's 4 months old, so My daughter's like, well, my house is pretty clean. She's pretty updated on all this stuff. Her and I used to go to expos in Canada all the time and learn all this stuff. Okay. She was a natural live blood analysis, natural healer and stuff. I take my EMF meter all over her house. The only spot that it lit up red was right above the baby's bassinet,
Oh,
Jeez.
geez.
a night light that she had purchased for the baby.
Oh.
That even though the wireless portion of it was not turned on, it was plugged in, it was still emitting that frequency and lighting up red. The
Wow.
other thing was right beside that was her earbuds or her
Right.
AirPod earbuds, her
Right.
wireless earbuds. So she got rid of both of those.
Yeah, we got rid of
Nice.
those too. They're
See.
just horrible.
Yeah. But why, that's one of the biggest things with especially with the EMFs
Mhm.
is the baby monitors, the things that you use that you think are helpful with raising your baby are usually harming them. And if the parents really knew that, they wouldn't be purchasing these things. I mean, it's like placing a mini microwave right next to your baby's head while they're sleeping. That alone could be another reason they're tossing and turning. Those baby monitors emit way more of a signal than your cell phone does because your
Hmm.
cell phone is only lighting up with frequencies when somebody's calling you or texting you,
Right.
or you're getting an email, whereas this monitor is on constantly.
Right.
This makes me so grateful that I had my children back in the day before they had all those baby
Yep.
monitors and all those
Yep.
other gadgets. Because to me, the baby monitor was I left the door cracked so I could hear the baby whether they were
Right.
crying or not.
Right.
I I am so grateful because I would be hesitant at this point in time to try to raise a child in a society that has so much of this frequency interference in it. It's
Yeah.
you really have to monitor all of it.
Yeah.
Well, I know Bruce has been turning off the Wi-Fi at night before he goes to bed, and he
Good.
said he feels so much better having it
Yeah.
turned off.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same as the geopathic stress.
Hmm.
Your body is fighting off those frequencies instead of healing itself.
Hmm.
It's going to cause nightmares, sleep disturbances. So many of us sleep with our phone on,
Hmm.
because we don't want to miss that important call from our kids in the middle of the night or
Right.
something,
Right.
so
Right.
it's so hard to disconnect from that. But just simply placing it on a dresser on the other side of your room,
Hmm.
that could help a lot as well. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I
know,
intentionally put a charger in another area. So to charge it, you charge it at night, I leave it there, and then I go get it in the morning because it's just not worth it. It really isn't worth it to have all that stuff coming at you all the time.
Hmm.
yeah, some people are getting so sensitive to these energies, they have to move out of the area. They have to get a different home. It's electrosmog sensitivity, and what's happening to you if you go to a clean area, which is hard to find now,
Hmm.
a
Yep.
totally clean, frequency clean area, and you feel better, which most of us should. But some of these people are so sick from these, they're debilitating to them,
And
I
the
think my
medical.
dad had the right idea. He built a house in the woods, away from everything and everyone. And I kept thinking, why are you living in the woods? This doesn't make sense to me. Of course, I was younger. And now it's like, it makes so much sense to
Right.
me. I would love to go live in the woods. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, off
Well,
grid.
if you can do one thing though, I would recommend, put a cork board underneath your bed and then get a grounding mat.
Hmm.
So a grounding mat is going to give you the ability to discharge those pent up frequencies,
Sleep in
throughout
one
that
every
you
night.
Yep.
exactly. It
Got my
reduces
feet on them now.
inflammation, pain, yeah, all kinds of things. So, and it's like what, $30 to buy a grounding mat? Probably, I don't know how much for a cork board, but it can't be that much. So it is a lot cheaper than going to the doctor or being roped
Hmm.
into the American medical industry and all their side effects with whatever they're
Hmm.
going to prescribe you with as their guinea pig. Here, try this. We don't know what it is, but it could be this. Usually they predict that it's an autoimmune disease. They guess, or it's lupus, something like that, and they keep changing their mind every time you go back. But
Hmm.
just try
And
the
how many autoimmune diseases are misdiagnosed? I mean,
Hmm.
working with clients who are typically on the autoimmune spectrum, all the time I'm saying, well, let's relook at that. Let's re-examine what you're talking about, because typically autoimmune disease is hard really to define. They're just basing it on symptoms. And so if you address the underlying root cause of things, typically things can be cleared up.
Absolutely.
Yep. So go clear out your I don't want to keep
Geopathic
saying
stress.
magnetic
Geopathic.
geopathic stress. Get rid of your geopathic stress and you'll be good.
Well, it
All
looks like
right.
we've come up on the hour,
Mhm.
and it's been a great discussion. Thank you, Lisa, for all your insight and sharing that with all of us. Appreciate all the input, Tammy, and we're looking forward to another great show next week also. So if you come back again and join us for another episode of Sovereign Sisters.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.